biscuits, it's Cupcake Kami-sama back here. Welcome to another video, which is the 5th installment of the Advanced Coordinating series. Today's topic is intentionality in a Coord. What is it? What to keep in mind in order for looks to come across as intentionally this way, and thus avoiding unsolicited concord, with a few blasts from the past as examples for good measure. At this point, I would also like to thank you for all your support with this video series. Every time someone mentions that they watch these videos, that they help them in any way, big or small, my heart grows with joy and fills with more motivation to do more. This is how we've reached this point, as intentionality was the last topic that I had on my list to cover. Don't worry though, it's not the last advanced coordinating video. But what it does mean is that from now on, every advanced coordinating video is something that has been, in one way or another, suggested by you. So if there are topics that I have not covered yet or not mentioned, that I will discuss them in the future, by letting me know your suggestions, you're potentially helping this series carry on for that little bit longer. And to ensure that you don't miss when that suggested topic does make it to a video, you should definitely subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button next to it. That way, whether the advanced coordinating video is one of my one a month or an additional one, you are sure not to miss it. Now, on to the topic at hand. Intentionality. Or, in other words, doing things on purpose. We all do wear this fashion on purpose, but not every choice we make with our outfits can come across as such. Because of this, intentionality is incredibly confusing for newer Lolitas to grasp. That, and because if it's ever mentioned or alluded to, it's always in passing and never explained. You know, the sort of offhand comments like, X is fine as long as it's intentional and reads as such. But how to even do that? How can veteran Lolitas just look at two Coords from two strangers and tell which one is intentionally simple or intentionally mismatched, and which one is so because of a lack of coordinating experience or missing the appropriate pieces? This isn't easy to explain, so make sure you're sitting comfortably while I do my best. First things first, it has to be said that the intentionality of one's styling can indeed get lost, even on Lolitas who have been wearing the fashion for a while. This isn't always due to the coordinate not being clear on its intentions. We all have our own points of view, points of references, preconceptions, experiences, all that stuff. That means that we look at the same thing and interpret it differently to the person next to us. To go back to an example that I use often in these videos, which is old school Lolita, someone with first-hand experience and understanding of what wearing Lolita was like in, say, 2007, will be more likely to catch the references to Coords from that time than someone who only started the fashion in 2018 and never looked to the past with any degree of detail or interest. The same can be applied to multiple things, not just to substyles, but to themes, or even as minor things as how you choose to accessorize an outfit, if at all. Many people make deliberate choices to bend the rules or to use particular pieces as cultural nods, as character inspirations, for specific personal reasons, etc. The fact is that there will always be someone who understands those choices, while others don't. That's inescapable. Having said this, there is a certain degree of intentionality that is clear to catch and helps us differentiate Lolitas who are still building their collection and polishing their coordinates from those who already know and have that. Those who have that practical experience of wearing Lolita and putting outfits together, veteran Lolitas if you wish, tend to be able to tell when a Coord is lacking in accessories because the wearer chose to keep it simple, and when they simply don't have much choice. One of the key elements differentiating the two is that an intentionally simple coordinate will not lack depth, whereas one that's missing the right pieces often will. Whilst the advanced coordinating videos are intended as standalone ones, depth in itself is quite a broad and deep topic, which I have covered in detail in a separate video, so I suggest you check this out over here if the concept is unfamiliar to you. Another thing that I said in one of the previous installments of this series is that I want to avoid making good versus bad coordinate comparisons, because I'm aiming these videos at the intermediate Lolitas. And by intermediate, I mean people who know the basics of what makes a coordinate good and therefore are able to start breaking down the subtleties like what makes a coordinate good versus what makes a coordinate very good or even a standout. However, when talking about intentionality, the lack of which is often a newbie Lolita thing, I will have to break from this a little and dig into some older outfits of mine as examples. This will hopefully not only make the comparison more organic than if I were to put something together just for this video, but it will also enforce a very important message, that is that none of us start out perfect. Self-improvement takes time, though the more you know and the more consciously you focus on it, the shorter that journey becomes. As such, it seemed best to me to use actual past examples of things that I have actually worn and was legitimately proud of and happy with at the time to make the point, even if the point is, learn from my mistakes, kids. This also means that I have just the right photos to use for a comparison. Starting off with one of my earliest proper Lolita Coords, i.e. we've moved past the dress plus petty and that's it phase, and we now know about the rules. Featuring bodyline Sweet Macaron JSK versus the twinning cord with Rolly from April 2020. Even if I hadn't told you which of these cords is the early one, you'd be able to tell in an instant. The tights and blouse aren't necessarily or objectively bad, but they don't create enough visual differentiation to make this cord any more interesting than what the dress brings to the table. In fact, because the blouse and tights make for a fairly solid layer of cream colour, combined with this JSK being on the shorter side on me, we quite literally have a blank canvas, and all the interest in this cord comes from the JSK print alone. Without more prominent accessories or textures to break this up, the coordinate looks flat, and there just isn't much to say about it besides that it ticks all the boxes as far as rules are concerned, but that doesn't keep anyone's interest in for long, does it? Lack of depth is one clear sign that the outfit isn't simple on purpose, but because the wearer lacks alternative pieces or the coordinating experience to add that level of interest. And the imbalance of themes isn't helping this coordinate either, though that's a point that we'll get to after this one. In comparison to this one, the twinning cord is without a doubt more interesting, as well as clearly simple on purpose. Not only is every element consistent in substyle and theme, but despite this being a more casual outfit, it manages to create a lot more depth than the other one. We have a cut sew layered over the JSK to break up what would otherwise be a block of blue. We have the ruffles on the ankle socks and the triple bows on the shoes that add some textural and visual interest at the bottom instead of keeping it all at the top. Even though there aren't that many accessories in the cord, what is there is more prominent and more carefully placed so that the accessories fill in any gaps as well as add depth to areas that could otherwise be quite flat. The 2016 cord doesn't even attempt that, both because I didn't have the pieces to do that and because I didn't even know that this was something that could have made the outfit better. Since I've already touched on that, another way that intentionality can become clear in someone's outfit is through themes, namely the uniformity or consistency of themes, mostly in terms of stop styles, though not exclusively. I'm not trying to say that every outfit out there has to be one substyle only and stick to that, no mixing allowed. No. What I am saying is that whatever idea you have for your outfit, whether that's a singular substyle or a blend of multiple, identify those and then remain conscious of that when building the cord, so that no one element overpowers the other ones. This is how people can tell when someone is deliberately doing a sweeter gothic look, whether you call it bittersweet, pastel goth, creepy cute or whatever, and when someone is simply not accomplishing a gothic look by mixing in too many sweeter pieces, be it through inexperience or lack of appropriate items. In that sense, intentionality ties in very closely to cuts of garments and having them be appropriate for the look or looks that you want to channel, with a big dose of understanding your accessory choices and things like this. It has to be said that sometimes what comes through as lack of intentionality is just a mistake, as we learn through experimenting and trying to figure out our style that way, which is absolutely okay. Don't let the fear of getting something not quite right stop you from experimenting. This is how we learn. Just make sure that you do reflect on your experiment attempt afterwards so that you can extract some lessons from that. Which is the perfect segue to this set of examples using the Bear's Paradise skirt from Magic Tea Party. Here is a photo again from 2016 from the first time I wore it. And bless the cotton socks of 2016 Paulina, because in her uninformed purity, she thought that this was an intentionally sweet classic outfit. Darling, you're me, so of course I love you, but no. It is obvious that this is a case of us not having anything better back then, because consistency has never entered the chat in the first place. Technically, yes. Each element of the Coord, the blouse, flower clip, shoes, arguably even the socks, is classic. But they are all different types of classic, varying in the levels of fanciness as well as theme. Because for all the classic Lolita uninitiated people out there are lots of ways to wear classic Lolita. We have a pretty princessy blouse with very casual vintage/academia style shoes, and with the accessories, the hair and overall styling sitting at various points in between those two spots. And despite an attempt being made at colour matching, there is none to boot. Yes, I am a die-hard believer in the colour matching is easy, the trick is to coordinate mantra. But this Coord has neither, as each shade here is different from the other ones. As such, the only intentionality here is that I consciously picked those particular elements over other ones that I had available to me at the time. But that is literally it. Then we compare it to this one from August 2019, and even though it's far from being the best old school coordinate out there, at least it's consistently, clearly, and intentionally old school. Better color coordinating means fewer bad distractions, and all items in this one are consistent in the substyle from cut to placement to styling. Sure, this still could have been improved with even more substyle specific pieces, particularly socks and shoes. But what is there does not seem out of place. And for someone who is not into old school, this is a solid enough coordinate to work and not be questioned as old school. That intention is clear throughout. In other words, what ensures that intentionality of a coordinate is clear is, to put it simply, paying attention to detail and to every element of the Coord. And I do mean every element. The cuts, the choice of accessories, the placement and pairing, the styling, the consistency, depth, color coordination, references to the inspiration or substyle. All of these things and more come together to create the final look. It sounds overwhelming when you break it down like this. Like you have to consciously think of all these things at once. And at first it probably is overwhelming. But this is advanced coordinating, not novice coordinating. You already know the basics and have a base to work on. So trust yourself in that. Pick one thing to work on at a time and work on it until it becomes second nature and you have the capacity to pick up another one. Depending on what is the most important part of this particular coordinate of yours, or what is it that you intend to show, some of these elements will be more important than other ones. For me, hair and makeup play a much bigger role in my retro Lolita coordinates, whereas depth and filling in gaps through accessories matter more for my OTT looks. What you need to keep in mind is that if your goal is to have a recognizably Lolita outfit, as opposed to wearing your Lolita pieces, then your focus should be on balancing all of those elements when playing with your base silhouette. The more you do it, the more subconscious it becomes, and the better you'll be able to recognize at a glance where you got it right and where you might need to keep working, even if you won't necessarily be able to consciously name what is missing. This will help you avoid that dreaded unsolicited concrete from people who interpret your choices as mistakes or lack of knowledge or understanding of the fashion. And like I said earlier, sometimes you just can't avoid that happening anyway, because we all view the world through our own lenses. So don't take it to heart. Step away from the comment if you need to, before reflecting on what the comment said, comparing it against your vision and intent, and figuring out yourself whether there is any merit to that person's words. I racked my brain for quite some time before deciding on who I wanted to suggest as my Lolita inspiration for this episode. Because every Lolita who has been wearing the fashion for a while and has found a way to grow both from their beginner phase and their intermediate experiments will be great at maintaining intentionality, even if they never even know to put that label to it. Moreover, I find that the more people wear Lolita, the less concerned they get with labels and just wear what they enjoy. Not to be all like, me, 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 but my own Coords from 2020 have shown me that, where some of them are so extremely casually thrown together for the purpose of working from home, that intentionality did genuinely get lost in them, but also I stopped being fussed over whether they were Lolita enough or not. This means that whoever style you personally admire, you can definitely pick out elements from their looks that will give away that they were intentionally so. Personally, I am the sort of person who loves to see people take this fashion into places that I haven't seen yet. I love a brave soul who will channel completely non-Lolita things and make them Lolita, because they in turn open my eyes to the unexplored possibilities and things that I may not have tried myself yet. One of those people is Inere on Instagram, who was also recently part of the J Fashion Roundtable at Bay Area K's Ursa Major 2 event. She has wowed me with Coords incorporating her Mexican heritage and culture. She has amazed me with themed looks. She even translated some completely non-Lolita outfits and transformed them into our fashion. Whichever one she did, it was always very clear from the get-go that she knew what she was doing and she was doing it on purpose. Her choice of pieces, colours, patterns, cuts, placements, accessories, where she adhered to and where she bent the Lolita rules, all of that spoke loudly of how deliberate her choices were. The creativity from every Coord of her that I come across does not cease to amaze me, and I totally adore it. Even in cases where my own preferences or taste might be different, and I catch myself thinking, I'd pick different shoes, or something like this. It doesn't detract from the overall effect and the successful look. People like Inere, those who are not afraid of incorporating parts of themselves into their looks, whether that be their hobbies, interests, heritage, personal history, etc., keep the fashion interesting to me, and seeing people like Inere do all this so well, i.e. keeping it look like a fashion outfit and not a costume, absolutely makes my heart sing. But do remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. If intentionality is something that you found yourself struggling with, don't give up and keep at it. Not only is this another aspect of advanced coordinating that heavily relies on having the right pieces and knowing how to use them, it's also another one that gets easier with practice. As I think I said before, you can't let fear of getting something wrong stop you from experimenting and trying, because trying is the quickest way to learn all this and make that skill second nature when you coordinate. Yes, intentionality in the Coord will come a bit easier to those who know how they want to look in Lolita, and those who then invest in getting the pieces that will help them get that look. It will naturally be easier for people who focus on just one substyle or look, or those who stick to a limited colour palette, while us chameleons and the undecided will have to equip ourselves with extra patience. But it is worth it. Remember not to be too hard on yourself through the process, as well as when you finally get those however many steps down the line and get a chance to look at your earlier attempts. You did the best you could with what you had at the time, and wouldn't be where you are now without going through those previous stages. And on that note, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it has been useful and helped you in some way, be it through explaining the concept or by helping you reflect on some bits that you may have found yourself struggling with. Advanced Coordinating as a video series is continually growing thanks to you and your suggestions. So the next video will be based on an idea that was submitted by one of you. And I'm sure that even what I have noted down as the next things to tackle are only scratching the surface. So make sure to comment on this video with things you'd like to see in the future, and also like this video to let YouTube know that this is something that you enjoy and would like to see more of. Between those two and subscribing, that's 3 completely free ways of supporting me and motivating me to do more of these. If you would like to leave some extra motivation, you can do so by dropping a tip via Coffee or by joining my Patreon, where the $2 a month tier gets you 1 week early access to every single video that I upload, and the $1 a month tier gives you early access to every single blog post that I share, which means that either will let you catch the advanced coordinating posts/videos before they go public. Lastly, I would like to encourage you to check out my blog, which is Cupcakes and Unicorns, as that has even more Lolita content beyond just the advanced coordinating series. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye!